Hey everybody, this is Chris again, and I've got another special guest with me today, and also a friend that I've known for a long time. His name is Robert Hack, and he owns a number of businesses, and I thought it would be a great idea to invite him today and get some of his perspectives. He's got a lot of experience, a lot of wisdom, and a lot of things that he's done. And so I thought we'd just maybe start with some of your background. When I met you, I don't know, maybe it was 20 years ago when you were coming into the credit union to get loans. I
Mhm.
remember the first business that you had. Maybe you worked at Chuck Ram at the time. I don't
I'm
remember.
pretty sure I was in the restaurant management at that time when I first started dealing with you guys there
Oh, was that right?
and
Okay.
buying dirt bikes.
Yeah. And you used to have dirt bikes and
Oh,
motorcycles, I guess.
of course, lots of them.
Yeah, very nice. And then I think you decided to kind of go out on your own and to own your own cleaning business.
That is correct.
So were
After,
you,
go ahead, sorry.
I was gonna say, was your first client like Chuck Around you to clean that business or?
It was. I decided that working 114 hours in a restaurant every 2 weeks was my salaried hours, was getting me nowhere and just chewing up my life. So at that time, I decided I needed to come up with some type of exit strategy or figure out how to do something else. And
Wow.
I
So,
decided, but
so the restaurant business and management was you were working more than 2 weeks of work in one week. You were working a ton of hours.
yeah, they made us work 10 to 12 hours a day, 5 days a week. If I remember right, depending on the days of how many days were in the month, we had to work either 107 to 114 hours every 2 weeks to end up with a certain amount of hours by the end of the year to justify your salary.
Wow. Yeah. So not much of a home life if you're always at work.
No, missed a lot of little kids' school plays and different things like that that I regretted not being able to attend.
Yeah. It's interesting because when I first got out of college, I tried something similar. I was working in retail for Gart Sports back then when they were still around. And
Mhm.
retail's tough because you put in a ton of hours. You don't get paid very well, and it's probably similar to restaurant work,
Yep.
ton of hours, and you don't get paid a lot. But so, how did the cleaning business go for you? How was that?
So the cleaning business, I decided to do that because I could work at nights and have my days free to go to school or to try to do something and develop something. So I started the cleaning business and it was supposed to be kind of a temporary thing to allow me to go to University of Utah and take some classes, but it took off and started doing really, really well.
Oh,
And I ended up being in multiple states with probably 50 or 60 employees. And it did have its challenges. There's no doubt. It is a hard job. It is a thankless job. The hours are horrible, but it did allow me to get some traction and get out of the restaurant business and get going.
wow. I didn't know that you were that big.
Yeah, it was
Multiple.
it was a pretty successful little business. We ended up with some carpet cleaning vans and pressure washing equipment and lots of those Zamboni machines that you see driving around in the grocery stores late at night. And it was a fairly decent business for a long time.
How long did you have that? Did you sell it or did it just not work out?
So I feel like I was there for about 8 to 10 years, if I remember correctly. And then it kind of started winding down as I started doing something else. And then I ended up giving it to my brother-in-law and he kind of took it over.
I see. Were you already getting into the dental business?
Yeah, so I was going to school at the University of Utah to go to dental school and working at nights, and I was taking prerequisites. And at that time, I realized that I could actually open a dental practice and hire a doctor and not necessarily have to go through all the schooling, all the debt, and all the education that comes with going through dental school. And I took that exit and went into that line.
So did you have your 4-year degree and then you were in dental school or just
No, I was getting my 4-year degree and getting prerequisites out of the way so that I could actually apply to dental school. So
right?
only maybe a couple years of college, and then I kind of took the off ramp and just decided to open a dental practice.
So how did you get that idea? I mean,
Um,
did
I
you
think that I felt like the schooling thing was going to be long and hard. My wife was a dental hygienist. My flight instructor was a dentist. And so I had some understanding of how to run a dental practice and what was involved. And I knew that it was a field that was good, that had very little failure rate. Most dental offices are successful. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to open one.
Yeah, I remember the first time you came in and I talked to you at the credit union about your plans. And I hate to say this, Robert, I said, "You're doing what? You're going to open a bunch of dental practices? You're crazy." But for some reason, when I would talk to you about it, it wasn't like a matter of if I'll succeed. It's you knew. You had a business model. You knew it would work. What was it that gave you that confidence and drive, you think?
You know, it's a good question. I don't know if I have a good answer for you. I've always felt like when I've set my mind to do something, I would do it. And I have failed at things. I haven't always accomplished everything I set out to do, but I usually kind of go in all in, like without the option to fail that I had to do it. It was either I was successful or I was back being a restaurant manager. And I knew as much as that was a good job and I was treated fair, and I still know the owners of the company and still associate with them today, it was not what I wanted to do in life.
Wow. So isn't that interesting? Sometimes when you put it all in, when you put all of your chips on the table and you kind of burn the bridge behind you, you succeed or that's the only choice you got.
Yeah, it really was. And the fact that I hadn't completed college, I really had no way to go apply for some college level position. So I was kind of, I got either got to do this or I'm going to drown.
Yeah.
So that's
How
maybe
many?
the motivating factor. Either live or die.
Yeah, exactly. How many years ago was that when you got when you bought
So
or start?
I've been in the dental business for 19 to 20 years now. So
Wow,
it's 20 years ago.
20 years. So in the 20 years, if we fast forward to today, just to give everyone an idea where you're at, maybe you can tell us from that first dental practice, kind of where you're at now with the offices and the doctors and employees that you have. And
Yeah, so 20 years ago, we started one little location. I happen to own a small building and I gutted the top floor and opened a little humble dental practice to now having 19 locations, and several of them I own the buildings, and these are large buildings that are multi-tenant type buildings where I'm taking a third and leasing out the other 2/3 to somebody else. Um, we have, I think, about 125, 140 employees and probably
wow,
30 doctors working now.
wow, 18 different doctors,
No,
over
no, no, 18 different
118.
locations
That's right.
and 100 or 30 doctors and about 140 employees, I think.
Wow.
That number does vary a little bit, and we are continuing to grow. So my goal is to open probably 5 or 8 more in the next 3 to 5 years and then retire.
Wow. I'm sure you would have an investor willing to buy out the company at that time.
We have been approached a couple of times by different large dental groups to buy us out, but right now we feel like we're not quite seasoned enough where we want to be to sell.
Yeah.
We got to
Huh.
bake the pie just a teeny bit more, and then the pie will look really good. Then I'll sell it.
Oh, there you go. Well, I have to give kind of a testimonial. You've got some amazing doctors that work for you. Actually, I had some work done by one of them. Look great. Look at those. Those were one of your doctors. He did a great job, and
Yep.
um, it's a great business. Wow. So from 18, how far north to how far south?
So we go as far north as Logan, and I have a nice building up there that I own. And then we go as far south as Payson.
Wow. How do you manage all the doctors, all the employees, all the locations?
It
Sounds,
can be, I'm not gonna lie, it can be a handful sometimes, but I have some really good staff. I have a couple of district managers. They have company cars. They drive around, they oversee the locations, they hire, they train, they do all the necessary stuff to keep them running. So now that I have gotten everything kind of in place and good systems in place and a corporate office and people who handle our billing, people who handle payroll and all that kind of stuff, my schedule has now freed up substantially over the last, I don't know, 5 or 8 years, where I'm kind of free to drive around and look at new locations and kind of plan and do those kind of things. So I don't have to deal with a lot of the day-to-day stuff. So that's
that's,
kind of nice. But there was
yeah,
a time in the beginning where I was staying up till 2 o'clock in the morning, painting the new location myself and building the new location, and then working during the day to oversee the existing location. So while my schedule has gotten fairly favorable now, there was a time where I put my time in. I mean, I really put my time in.
right, right. Huh. So it sounds like it's kind of expanded out from there. You were telling me a while ago, some dentists, when they lease out an office space or they buy a building, they hire out the build out. You've got to build just a shell of a
Mhm,
building, and then
mhm,
you have to kind of build the different areas for the dental chairs. And at
right.
first you told me instead of paying someone, you were doing all that yourself.
Yeah, so that's referred to as tenant improvements or TIs. And so you're right, a doctor will hire some company, and they'll come in and they'll do all the dental plumbing and they'll do all the specialty stuff and build the walls. And it's hundreds of thousands of dollars to do that. So I've been doing my own, and in the interim, ended up getting my general contractor's license. So that's been nice. Now I'm able to not only do the internal build out, I'm building the whole building now. And so I kind of swing a hammer and play general contractor, and I'm doing it for like half of what it would cost me to hire some group to come out and build out the space.
Wow, smart, really smart. I think you've expanded out beyond that too. How many other businesses do you own?
So I got into the boating business kind of by accident, but I do own Premier Marine, and we started that about 5 years ago in a little humble building in Linden. It was kind of a glorified storage unit, but it was a retail warehouse kind of thing. And we recently bought a big dealership on I-15. It was a $3 million purchase, but we bought this building that used to be SS Marine. We've remodeled it. And now we actually have a real boat shop with a big sign on I-15, and we're a dealer for several brands of boats. And we used to just do service, but now we're doing sales and service and parts.
Wow. So how do you do that? You must have more hours in the day than everybody else.
But again, I have some really good people who I
Yeah.
have a general manager that runs that boat shop, and truth be told, he probably runs it better than I could. He lives and breathes boating. He loves it. It's his passion. And he pretty much runs everything down there for me. And I go down there and hang out and play with cool boats a little bit and then go home.
Oh, very nice. Well, if we go back to the dental practice
Mhm.
business, where do you find in that business kind of your fulfillment, your happiness, your joy? What brings you some satisfaction? What is it about that business? Maybe the part, the positive that you draw from it.
So I feel like in the dental world, I get to work with some very quality people. In the restaurant business, it was kind of a business where I would just get kids and stuff to come in and wash dishes and cook and stuff. they didn't really care a lot. This was kind of a stepping stone job for them. But at the dental practice, these are people that are all trained professionals. Managing them is very easy. It's not like I need to tell a doctor to be on time for work. These guys come on time, they care. And so there is some satisfaction in, when we implement a policy, everybody for the most part embraces it, and we make a change or something. Where in most businesses, I think it's always a struggle for change and things like that. In the dental world, there's still some struggles, but for the most part, everybody's like, yeah, let's do that. And they do it. And so
Yeah.
it's easy to manage. So I think there's some satisfaction with that.
Yeah, and that's what I found working at where I met you at the credit union where I worked for 23 years or so. It was it was meeting people, high quality people like yourself, trying to help them meet their goals, their financial goals in services I could provide. And I think that's a lot of what I found. I've talked to a few other dentists that say kind of the same thing. The greatest joy or satisfaction they have in the business they're in is helping people and getting to know people. And, someone comes in and they've got a lot of pain and, they do a procedure and they leave the office and, they're in much better shape. They can resume their life. And so on your side of things, you get to interview these people. And I don't know if the people watching understand, if you become a dentist, you get out of school and you don't want to hassle with the paperwork and paying the rent and paying the secretary and doing the collection work, sending in all the bills to the insurance company. You can work for someone like Robert, put your time in, get paid, and then leave.
Yeah.
Maybe you can talk about some of those benefits of a dentist.
Yeah. So I think there's real value to what we have to offer, because a doctor, a dentist doesn't make any money unless he's treating patients. So if he's not there engaged with the patient, he's making zero. So when he has to deal with payroll, workman's comp issues, advertising, marketing, hiring, firing, training, um, insurance credentialing, billing the patients. And then
Mhm.
the biggest challenge we have is dragging money out of the insurance companies so that they pay us. Insurance companies are pros at not paying their bills. That's their goal. I know that sounds terrible, but we have staff dedicated to dragging money out of the insurance company and stuff. So a doctor on his own has to deal with all of those things. I sometimes kind of marvel a single owner practice how they're successful, because the state of Utah has a lot of regulations. The payroll people have a lot of regulations, and there's a lot of things that you need to know and do accurately and correctly, or you're going to be in trouble. And for a doctor to have to bring himself up to speed with all of that kind of stuff just seems overwhelming. For me, I have certain individuals dedicated to certain tasks at the office, and they perform all of that stuff. And they, for the most part, they do it pretty accurately. So then the doctor can come in, he can just work on patients from 9 to 5 and go home. He
Mhm.
gets a check every 2 weeks. He doesn't have to stress about all those other things. And I think it makes his life a lot easier,
Mhm. It's
because for
amazing.
me, it's kind of a full-time job, just keeping up with all the peripheral stuff, not having to treat any patients, and I'm still busy a lot doing those kind of things.
Exactly. So it's an amazing business model that you found. Are there other people that kind of in town doing the same sort of thing that has been
So
as successful as you?
it's interesting. When I first started this 20 years ago, nobody had really ever heard of such a thing.
Uh-huh.
Now, and so I'm called a DSO, which is a dental
Uh-huh.
service operator.
Yeah.
Now there are lots of DSOs in the world. Some are huge. They have thousands of practices. So,
Wow.
and they have backing of big hedge fund groups and stuff, and they've really aggressively bought small groups like me. And there's some massive groups out there. In Utah, I think I am the largest DSO. I don't think in Utah anybody's bigger than me, but
Huh.
I don't know that for sure. There might be some that I'm just not aware of.
Hmm. Interesting. You were kind of a pioneer.
A little bit, I was, and I didn't do it because I was just some great guy who thought of a really good idea. I was just sort of fortunate to kind of fall into it and thought, oh, I'll try this and see what happens. And at the time, I think my timing was really good because payroll and all those kind of things were starting to get more and more complicated. And I think, and it's expensive to open your own practice. When you graduate from dental school, you typically would have $200,000 to $500,000 worth of debt. And then
Hmm.
to go on and take on a loan to buy a practice is another five, six, $700,000. And so I think it was kind of overwhelming to doctors. I think back in the day, doctors might graduate with $100,000 worth of debt and then buy $100,000 practice. That's manageable. But now everything has gotten so expensive that it's a challenge for a doctor to come out of school and then buy a practice. So
Yeah.
that's where I kind of came in.
Huh. Where do you find your drive? I mean, why don't you say to yourself, I've got five, I've got 10 practices. I'm good. What was it? What what was it that kept you going?
You know, honestly, it's probably, as much as I'm embarrassed to admit, probably ego a little bit. How big can I get? What can I do? How many cool cars can I own? And I know that sounds kind of arrogant, but that's kind of my driving thing is I just kind of want to see how far I can go. Maybe like an athlete or a runner that wants to be able to run a certain distance so fast, they keep pushing and pushing and pushing. Maybe that's kind of the same for me.
Hmm. I like that analogy. I think athletes pushing beyond their normal boundaries.
Yeah.
I think that's very good. Do you have a waiting list of dentists trying to get?
No, sometimes that ebbs and flows. Sometimes we're really struggling to find doctors to keep up with the growth. And then sometimes we're good, and doctors are sending the resumes and we're okay. Right now, we're good. We've got a couple of doctors that are coming on in a month or two, and I'm kind of scrambling to find days for them. So that's a good position to be in. I hate it when we're having to maybe close down a day or something because I don't have enough doctors to fill the position, and sometimes that happens.
Well, that was another question I was going to ask you is in the last 20 years, have you taken a vacation for more than a week at a time?
Yeah, that honestly, no, I have not. But I take lots of little vacations and lots of little days off here and there. But to leave for a whole week, I could. If I wanted to, I could. But I'm always in the process of opening a new location or I've got something exciting going on. So I choose to work. I choose to be involved. But if I wanted to, I could definitely schedule it and plan ahead and make sure I could leave for a week or two.
You almost sound like that Elon Musk guy. He said he took a week off and then one of his rockets blew up. He
But
just,
it is a little bit scary sometimes when you have so much invested in of your time and your life, and it's so important to you to be able to just kind of check out for a week.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, how well do you know your numbers? If your numbers, do you check that kind of stuff frequently? The different
Yeah,
locations?
daily.
Really?
Yeah, I have reports sent to me on how much, like at 11 o'clock tonight, I will get a printout from our CRM software that I don't fully understand, but it tells me exactly how much we produced, how much labor we spent, what each office did. And every night I stay up to about 11 o'clock because that's when that report is generated and sent to me so I can see what happened. And then the next morning, I can call and give somebody a high five, or I can say, what happened?
Yeah. So you've got daily management you're looking at. You would know maybe if you even had an internal problem with embezzlement, an internal problem with maybe hopefully you've never had any problems with that, but you keep your oh You probably would know if there was something off right away.
Yeah. So I don't know that I would notice embezzlement or something right away like that, but I can definitely tell if somebody's not confirming appointments or filling schedules and doing what they're supposed to be doing. I can tell that relatively quick.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's go back to, if you had a nephew or a niece, in high school, junior or senior, that looks, at what you've done and kind of wants to follow kind of a business owner path, what recommendations, maybe even in high school or college, or maybe they don't even get involved with college, what recommendations or what kind of person would you have to be? What kind of path would you need to take?
So I think perseverance is going to be kind of the key word here to answer your question. There's going to be some discouraging days. It's going to be hard. I'm not going to kid you, but persevering and sticking to it, I think is going to be the thing, because you can go work for a restaurant or you can go work in retail and there's going to be challenging days and you're still going to have to persevere, and there's going to be employees that you don't get along with, or there's going to be a boss that's ornery or whatever. So you're still going to have struggles and discouragement. In my opinion, you should just have those struggles and discouragement for yourself and your self growth, not do it for somebody else.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's
But it's
building
not
up your,
easy.
yeah. But also, I guess you have to have kind of a business sense of seeing an opportunity and going all in, taking,
Yeah, you definitely need to make a decision and then in your mind sort of burn the ship and go forward.
right, right.
And don't ho hum about it and don't overthink it. I think sometimes I regret that I do ready, fire, aim in my life. There's a lot of times I'm like, oh, it's great, let's do it. But and then we're like, oh man, that wasn't such a good idea. But really, that mentality is kind of driven me to keep going forward, even though I stubbed my toe along the way or skinned my knee.
Yeah, right. Huh, interesting. Yeah, it's funny because I don't know if you've seen this, but it's like a lot of the generation out there now, it's like they look at their parents, they look at those people that were successful and like, yeah, that's where I want to start. I want to start with the reward. And they forget you started with one location, you mastered the processes, and then you kind of built out. You didn't step into 18 locations, and it probably wouldn't have worked if you did. You,
No, I started cleaning toilets, mopping floors, and use that to leverage my first office, and then use my first office to leverage another office and another office. It was all lots of little baby steps to get where I'm at. Yeah, I didn't step into 18 locations and say, oh, this is great. I wished.
yeah, isn't that interesting? Started cleaning floors and cleaning toilets, something no one else wanted to do.
No. But you know
Uh,
what? It's not a bad job either. I mean, obviously, doing it is no fun, but having some staff that's willing to do it and oversee it. But when I first started, it was just me. And then it was one
really?
employee, and then it was two or three, and then it was 20, and then it was 30 employees. And then I was just driving around giving bids to customers. But there was a lot of nights where I was sitting there spraying down a restaurant floor and scrubbing the floor with a broom. It was me. And then the next day I was back to managing Chuckarama. And then once I was able to get enough revenue from that, I was able to leave Chuckarama. But it was working two jobs at one time.
Interesting. So you kind of made the next progression. So you didn't go cold turkey with the restaurant business until the cleaning business picked up.
That is true. That is true. And at the time I had a family and I had a house payment. So I really didn't have the liberty to just say, I'm going to try this. I had to do both until I could prove the other one successful enough that I could leave the restaurant business.
Wow. Where did you get this drive? Was your dad Was your dad like that? I mean,
My dad was a hard worker. He was a truck driver. He would work lots and lots of hours and worked his butt off. And maybe I just kind of saw that. I think I think a lot of it was I used to live in New York for 2 years, and I saw lots of very successful New York business people. And I had the opportunity to live in New York in some poor areas and some wealthy areas. And I saw men that had really made a name for themselves and kind of thought, that's where I want to end up. I don't just want to be a truck driver. I want to be, and there's nothing wrong with truck drivers. Don't get me wrong. I think the world of them, but I knew I wanted to get beyond that. So I was willing to do whatever I needed to do it.
yeah. So that's amazing. Um, what what advice would you give, to someone younger, like I say, maybe someone in high school, that when you have a very difficult day, when you're facing kind of some dark times in life, are there tools that you have used to kind of help you through that stuff?
That's a good question. I do not know if I have any tools. I feel like I just sucked it up and kept going.
Hmm.
That's probably not the answer that you're looking for, but that's kind of what I do. I just put my big boy pants on, so to speak, and just keep moving forward.
Yeah, yeah. That's
I've had
I
some
think that.
sad days. I've had days where doctors have quit in my janitorial business. I've had days where I've worked my butt off for an account and a new manager comes in and just says, you're fired. We're going to try a different company. Or I used to use this other company at the other location I used to work at, and I'm going to bring them over with me. So all of my efforts just gone.
Hmm.
That was definitely a discouraging time in the restaurant business. It needed to happen. It got me to where I needed to be. But I'll tell you, that is a job where getting fired a lot of times was sad. And a
Yeah.
lot of times it wasn't even because I did anything wrong. The company would go out of business, they'd get bought out by a different company and they would do something else, or somebody from some corporate level would decide we're just going to choose this national brand or this national company to come in and take over all of these restaurants or all of these locations or all these retail things. And I was just out,
Hmm.
fired a lot. It was sad. I landed a lot of new accounts, but I was fired a lot. Boy, that's a humbling experience now that I'm thinking about that again. It was discouraging.
Yeah. That's tough. But like you say, maybe it's just the persistence.
Yeah.
I got fired today, just lost an account that was worth X amount for me monthly.
Yep.
And now I'm back to square one. I need to start over, talking, getting bids out,
Hmm.
and just keep doing it because you don't have a choice.
You don't have a choice. No.
Yeah, I know there's been many times in my career, like I felt like staying in bed, running away, calling in sick. Like
Hmm.
I just I didn't want to be there. I didn't want, but yeah, it's when it's your responsibility to bring money home and support a family, it doesn't matter how you feel. It doesn't.
No. And I'll share a story with you. And you might have remembered this. I don't know if I came into credit union, but I remember going to work with pneumonia, being so sick. And I remember one time I pulled over and I threw up out the door of my truck. And all of a sudden I woke up and I'm like, what is that sound? What am I hearing? And it was the sound of my diesel truck. And I had fallen out. I had passed out, fell on the parking lot, and was laying underneath my truck. Thank goodness I had put it in park, but I had
Oh,
chipped my tooth and everything. And I remember just being so sick. And I thought there was like a helicopter flying overhead, but it was the sound of my diesel truck. And then I kind of came to and realized, why am I laying in the parking lot? And then all the pieces kind of came together. I passed out. And I can't remember if I ever came in with the chipped tooth or not. I got it fixed pretty quickly, but Yeah, there was some sad, hard days
Yeah,
where you just
interesting.
keep
You
going.
never told me that story.
Yeah,
That's crazy. Hopefully,
yeah.
hopefully today you can call in sick.
Yeah, I can I can call in sick now, but there was a time where you couldn't. And I don't know if I don't know, kids today or this generation understands that sometimes you just gotta do it, whether you want to or not.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's a lot, there's a lot of similarities between that and the workout regimen you have. If I
Mhm.
went to the gym when I felt like it, maybe I went to the gym once a week or twice a week, it doesn't do you any good. You
Mhm.
have to be, and it's almost the same thing. Even if I'm not feeling good and I'm somewhat sick, I'm still going to the gym 5 days a week, 6 days a week, in order to build up and not have,
Yeah,
that constant degeneration. It's just like the atrophy.
yeah.
It
Right,
takes
right.
over.
Yeah.
But very, very interesting. Well, you have shared some pretty cool stuff with us, Robert.
Okay.
I sh I sure appreciate your time and your wisdom, and I um, maybe when you're ready to sell, I can write you a check for the 50 million and
Okay, fair enough.
just don't cash it.
Okay. Well,
So,
I appreciate the chance you've given me to talk, and I think my last parting words of wisdom would be don't work for anybody else in life. Work for yourself. Don't spend your life making somebody else successful. Make yourself successful. Take that for what it's worth. That's probably one lesson that I've learned from having worked for myself and worked for somebody else.
right.
It's
Very,
fun.
very
It's fun to work hard and build your own future than to work hard and build somebody else's future.
right. Exactly. Well, thank you again, Robert, for all your
You bet.
time, and we
You bet.
appreciate your words of wisdom. So, thanks.